The forest was alive, not with birdsong or insects, but with something heavier, memory. Every branch felt like it had witnessed something that couldn't be spoken. Every tree leaned forward as if it had been listening for decades, waiting for someone to return. And now, someone had. Evelyn walked slowly past the 33rd milestone, the cracked stone now behind her, like a sealed gate. The further she stepped into the overgrown path, the more the light began to change. The sun filtered through the canopy in distorted patches, but the warmth didn't follow. Her phone had lost signal 20 minutes ago. Her flashlight flickered without reason, but she didn't turn back. The asylum was still standing, half swallowed by trees and vines, its outer walls cracked like dry skin, windows shattered, rust leaking down its sides. Above the rotting archway, the words "Silver Grove Asylum for Women, established 1961, had faded into near nothingness. But Evelyn felt it, not recognition, but resonance.
Something inside her tightened as she stepped into the moss-covered entrance. The smell hit first: earth, rust, and something sour beneath it. A long hallway, a woman crying, a door slamming, and then everything became darkness. She moved room to room. Broken cots, chains on walls, cabinets still labeled with patients' names. Most had been looted or destroyed. But then she found a locked office, partially hidden behind a toppled bookshelf. The lock gave away after some effort, the rust snapping.
Inside were rows of patient files, many ruined beyond recognition. But one was wrapped in plastic sheeting, buried beneath a drawer, like someone had tried to protect it. The label read, "Patient number 237, female, no legal guardian, known as M." Inside, she found sparse notes. Admitted under duress. Refuses to name child's father. Claims repeated visitation by whispering forest voices. Infant taken to adoption center under sealed state directive. Patient exhibited high distress following removal. Attempted suicide. Sedated.
At the bottom, a line scribbled hastily by a nurse. She sings to an empty blanket every night, says her child still hears her. Evelyn's hands trembled. The pieces were falling into place. Sharp, cruel pieces. She wasn't adopted by accident. She had been taken. The woman she thought of as her mother had never spoken of her origin, and now she knew why. Further down the corridor, she entered what looked like a children's ward, though its true purpose was unclear. Stuffed toys hung from the ceilings, mold-ridden. Small beds lined the walls, but on the far side of the room, there was a crude mural drawn in charcoal, and something that looked horribly like dried blood. It showed a woman, long-haired, faceless, standing next to a child. Underneath, written in crooked letters, "My angel, my Emily." She staggered back. The world tilted. Her knees buckled. That name. Her old name, long discarded, used only in official papers, now locked away in drawers. How could this have been here? A sound echoed, a faint humming, the lullaby again. Only this time, it wasn't distant. It was inside the building.
Evelyn followed it, down a spiral staircase, through a crumbling basement door. She found a locked cell at the very end of a hall. The door was chained, but the humming came from within. She knelt to the floor, peering through the gap. And there, in the dark corner of the room, she saw a figure, thin, pale, kneeling, clutching what looked like a bundle of cloth in her arms.
The figure slowly turned its head, though not fully, just enough to show a profile. The mouth was torn, as if sewn shut and then ripped open. Eyes hollow. But she didn't scream. She simply rocked the bundle and whispered, "You finally came back to me." Evelyn gasped and fell backward. But when she looked up again, the door was open. No chain, no lock, just open. The hallway behind her had changed. The rot, the damage, all gone. The floors were clean, the walls freshly painted. She was no longer in the present. She was inside a memory that wasn't hers, yet somehow was. Footsteps echoed. Nurses passed by, their faces blurry, dreamlike. Men in white coats spoke in muffled voices. She followed the sound of crying down the corridor. And there she saw the woman again. This time, not a ghost, but alive, strapped to a bed, screaming. Nurses dragged a blanket from her arms. The woman wailed and screamed a name over and over. "Emily! Emily! Please, don't take her!" The child was lifted by a nurse and carried away. The hallway shook with her scream. The lights blinked violently. And then, darkness. Evelyn awoke outside the building.
The forest was silent, not even wind. But in her hands, she held a baby blanket, soft, old, embroidered with fading letters, Emily. She hadn't come here to find a ghost. She had come here to find her mother, the one she never knew, the one no one believed, the one who was still waiting.
They say ghosts linger when something is unfinished, or a story interrupted, or a bond severed before its time, or a love left unheard. And somewhere deep in the woods between the living and the dead, that unfinished love had been waiting. Evelyn didn't remember how she got back to her car. Her shoes were torn, her palms bloodied. The baby blanket was still in her arms, warm despite the cold. She stared at the 33rd milestone in her rear-view mirror as the engine sputtered to life.
The forest didn't look haunted anymore. It looked grieved, like it had finally told a secret it had been carrying for far too long. Back in the city, things began to change. Evelyn stopped taking her pills, the ones the therapist said kept her grounded, but her mind had never felt clearer. At night, she still heard the lullaby, but it no longer came with shadows or fear. It felt like a whisper of comfort. She began digging through adoption records, private hospital archives, even bribing old clerks.
Eventually, she found it, a copy of her birth record, her real name, Emily, her mother, Margaret. She got admitted to Silver Grove Asylum for Women, established 1961. In 1992, they deemed mentally unstable post-trauma. Her crime was being a single mother in a society that never forgave it. And now, the film industry that once ignored Evelyn, now suddenly interested in her script, one she had rewritten in a fever about a mother in an asylum and a child stolen by fate, had won a national fellowship. The irony? It was being turned into a film titled The 33rd Milestone. The premiere was intimate. Just cast, crew, and press. But Evelyn felt uneasy. It wasn't the usual nerves. It was something familiar. That same weight from the forest. That same watchful air. She sat in the back row, fingers clutching her old pendant, the one her adoptive mother gave her when she was 5. It had 2 tiny letters engraved, Emily. As the lights dimmed and the movie began, the first shot rolled, a slow pan through a foggy forest. And suddenly, the screen glitched. Just for a second, everyone brushed it off as a tech error. But Evelyn knew better. The glitch had formed a face, a hollow-eyed woman, silent, watching, and smiling. That night, Evelyn returned home to her apartment. It was past midnight. Rain tapped gently on the window panes. She hung her coat, placed the baby blanket carefully near her daughter, Lana, while she was sleeping, and made herself tea.
As she passed by the mirror in the hallway, she saw it. A second reflection behind her. A woman in a hospital gown, long black hair covering half her face, barefoot, still, but not threatening, just waiting. Evelyn turned to find no one. She looked back into the mirror. The woman was gone. But in her place, on the mirror's surface, a word had appeared, drawn with invisible fingers through the condensation. Emily. She smiled just a little, because the dead don't always want to haunt. Sometimes they just want to be seen, to be remembered, to be forgiven. Weeks passed. The film was a quiet success. The reviews called it hauntingly poetic, emotionally complex, and unlike anything the horror genre had seen in years.
But Evelyn didn't care about the praise. Every evening, she drove to the edge of the forest and sat by the 33rd milestone. She never crossed it again, but she always brought something new. A poem, a song, once even an old teddy bear she'd found in an antique shop. Each offering was left on the stone, and every time she came back the next day, it would be gone. They say the 33rd milestone is still there. Most pass it without noticing. Some stop and feel a strange chill. A few hear a woman humming softly in the trees.
Emily, Emily, but no one sees her, because this is not just a ghost story. It's the story of a mother who waited, and a daughter who finally heard her. Yet, even after Evelyn found her real mother, the spirit still lingers, calm, watching, waiting. Why? Maybe she still has something left to say. Maybe there's a truth she's not ready to let go. To know why she's still here, like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments, do you want to hear the rest of her story?